trade recap. Okay, so to be honest, I get frustrated just by watching this. So let's get over what actually happened. First of all, this was the trade I was supposed to take. I was looking at the charts from London Open, or even 50 minutes before, so 2:45. I was just waiting for my edge to present itself, and when it does, my broker, or the prop firm account I am trading on, happens to be migrating to a new broker right at the time when I am supposed to be placing my trade. So it was impossible for me to place this trade since the account was currently disabled. So I could not enter. Anyways, I'm still going to count this as a trade and make a trade recap on it. It just happened to be that I couldn't execute when I was actually supposed to be taking the trade. So let's go over why did I take this trade. On the weekly, we know that we are already bouncing off the monthly fair value gap. Looking at the previous week candle, we can see that we had this huge wick sweeping the previous week low and displacing a lot higher on the lower time frame, which is shown by this wick. My target then became this previous week high. On the daily, we did not really have anything interesting because we prevented the fair value gap from being created, which was the only bearish sign I could think of, but at the same time, the prevention of a fair value gap doesn't mean a reversal is coming if price has no reason to come back, which price did not have in this case. So to me, this did not have a huge impact in my bias. On the 4 hour, here, let me remove that. My target was this previous week high, and I saw that before London, actually during Asia, we came down and we swept this low right here, this 4 hour swing low. So we had this 4 hour fair value gap. When we swept this, which also is shown by the wick here, we are wicking the liquidity and we are closing as a bullish candle, a pretty aggressive move towards the 4 hour bearish fair value gap. So I did not expect the bearish fair value gap to hold, but I knew that it would give a rejection. It was also overlapping with this order block. So that was where we was at when the London session opened. On the 1 hour, if I remove that, we stung into the 4 hour fair value gap here, 4 hour fair value gap, and we consolidated here. And this was when London opened as well. So we here was the pre-market. We were inside the 4 hour fair value gap. We also had this 1 hour bullish fair value gap. So we were overall in this 50-50 area. This 50-50 box right here, which I wanted to see a close below or above with an overlapping fair value gap. And here we eventually, after just consolidating for a good amount of time, did decide to close above the fair value gap here and the fair value box or 50-50 box. So then I also spotted this perfectly overlapping, with that we can just use this line right here, this perfectly overlapping 5-minute fair value gap with the 50-50 consolidation area right here. That was supposed to be my entry to then target first this high, 80% off here at a 1 to 2, and then let 20% run to this high. That was my game plan. Also, when I sat here, I mentioned to myself, or I actually record every trade I take live, so I can go back and rewatch how I felt and overall what my thought process was at that moment in time. So I said to myself, already when the first candle that got me involved in closed, right here, I said I am break even. So I was break even here in my mind. Of course, I did not take the trade because I couldn't. But if I was on the trade, I would have went break even after already the first candle close. That is simply because we now have shown that this 4-hour value gap will not be respected. It is not respected. It is not strong enough to push us lower. And after that, if we look at the 4-hour, we do not have any areas of resistance until we take this high. So I knew that we would, if we want to continue higher, we would continue higher fast. There would be no hesitation. And as you can see, we just created new scandals towards higher prices, which is very unfortunate. At least my bias was correct, and at least my thought process was correct. So, right here, this candle already, uh, we wicked the fair value gap with the overlapping uh, defense here in the form of this mitigation block, and we respected it. Closing with a bullish candle. We have already offered fair value now. We should not come down here again just to stop me out and then continue higher. Why should we not do that? On the 1 hour, we do not have a 1 hour value gap lower, unmitigated 1 hour value gap below us, and we do not have a unmitigated 15-minute fair value gap below us. So price simply has no reason to return to my entry point. The only thing it can do if we want to continue higher is to continue higher. No resistance towards higher prices and also no reason to continue lower. That was my thought process.